Hi. Okay, so the question I'm going to answer is, what are your special interests? Hi, I'm Millie. I'm an autistic person and also many other things, but autism affects everything in my life in both beautiful and challenging ways. This is a series where I answer anonymous questions about my life, with the intention of showing what life is really like for one autistic person. Hopefully, this will help you understand other autistic people that you are close to, even though we are all different. And maybe you will see some of me in yourself, and that will help you learn something about your own life. If you want to ask me a question, the link to the anonymous form is in the description below with more information. Thanks for watching. So when I think about special interests, I think about the terms like intense versus like people say special interest. That's most commonly heard, kind of that I've heard in relation to autism. But I've also heard recently intense interests, and I really like intense interests because that matches to me more how it feels, like that these interests are not just regular, like they really have this just this intensity to them. So what that feels like to me compared to just other things I might be interested in is that it's really like engaging with that topic is really, it's almost pleasurable. Like it's like something I'm learning things, but it's like something I can do to relax, or if I'm avoiding another stressful thing, like it's something I'm always drawn to. And it has this insatiable quality to it. Like I can never get enough information on the topic, basically. And I think if I've consumed all the information on the topic, I'll end up even if it is intense enough, then I'll even read the same information over and over again sometimes. And yeah, it's a very like comforting thing. So kind of pleasurable, comforting, something I like to go back to if I'm stressed or anxious. And it's a topic that's almost like I don't even know why I'm interested in. And I just keep getting drawn back into it. And it kind of waxes and wanes. And yeah, and then sometimes it'll go away for a long time, and then I'll just get pulled right back in. And I'm not even really sure why sometimes. And so some of my intense interests are, and I'm going sort of in the order of kind of when they first appeared in my life, I'd say. I wanted to have some kind of from when I was a kid and when I'm older and that kind of thing. So one of the first ones was and I wanted to choose some very like specific ones that were kind of, a little less broad. So it's almost kind of like, it's so specific. I don't even know really why I'm interested in these things. But so one of the first ones that I can remember is ultralight aircraft. And that's when I was quite young, like elementary school, junior high, high school kind of thing. And yeah, so an ultralight aircraft is basically like, if you imagine what a hang glider is, but it's basically a hang glider with a seat underneath and a motor. There's a lot of different variations, but it's something that it doesn't have the same requirements as in terms of licensing as a regular aircraft. But anyway, this one I know kind of what triggered. There's usually something, I don't know why I get so absorbed into it, but there's usually some kind of thing that I can remember that triggered it. Like the first time I kind of thought about this topic, and this was this movie, I have such a fondness for it. I still love this movie, is it's called Fly Away Home. So you might have seen that. I think it was pretty popular at the time. It's a 1996 film, and it's based on a true story. And it's basically the main character. She's flying with geese to lead them on migration. And she's flying this ultralight aircraft. So I don't know, that just stuck with me. And it's like something I just captured my imagination and something I really was interested in wanting to do. So I took books at a library on this topic, and I just had like these dreams about flying, or kind of would just daydream about flying and that kind of thing. And it's almost like I can just imagine the sensation, even though I haven't done it. So it might be related to some kind of sensory input in terms of motion and that kind of thing. And I'm still always interested in aviation and flight simulation on computers and that kind of thing. And and one slightly regret I have is like somebody actually, it was just known that I was really interested in this thing, and somebody actually gave me a lesson, ultralight lesson, as a gift, and I just never, I never went and did the lesson, which is kind of, I wish I would have done that. I can still do that someday. Another one, I think this was actually probably even younger. This is one of the first things I ever remember, having kids' books about and being really interested, but also one of the first things I looked up on the internet was just generally sort of space, specifically NASA. And also I was just always super interested in the International Space Station and all the modules that make up that station and all the science and everything behind it. So I used to read a lot of pop physics books, so just really interested in like black holes, string theory, and some of the books like A Brief History of Time and The Elegant Universe. And more recently, there's a great one called The Disordered Cosmos. And NASA, I was just always fascinated by the space shuttle, the moon landing. I look at the moon. I still do that. I look at it. It's like amazing to me that I just look and try to project myself to standing on the moon. And it's just kind of still always just blows my mind that somebody was, people have been up there looking back at us. As far as I remember, like NASA was one of the earliest websites in existence on the early internet. And that was it was just a website I was interested in going on, and I was interested in like drafting and blueprints and all that kind of stuff. And it's funny because later on I ended up doing, as a job, I was a drafts person for a while, and so I downloaded like those plans of the modules of the International Space Station, and I had the modules up on the wall in my room. So I had in my room some band posters maybe, but also International Space Station modules. And there's so many good Lego sets. Like Legos, I love Lego so much, and they're expensive though. But I do have a small set, which is really cool. It's a Women of NASA set, I think it's called, and it's just historical. Some of the actual women that worked at NASA and made some of the history, and a little booklet that's about them. And it's some minifigs, and I will probably link to that as well because it's a really cool set. And just generally with all the I took some introductory physics courses about related to pop physics concepts, but it's the one thing that gives me that real sense of awe, just thinking about the size of the universe, the potential of multiple universes, what exists outside of our universe, and just looking out at the stars and just thinking about the vastness of space and that kind of thing. And that's really beautiful to me. Another one is, roller coasters and theme parks. And oh my gosh, like specifically Disneyland to me, I love so, so, so much. Can't even explain. Like I really feel the magic of that place. And I've been had the privilege to be able to go a few times. But yeah, I've been stuck at home and don't get to travel much anymore, but I still love I watch lots of vlogs and Disney tour videos and then other theme parks. So a lot of stuff in Florida and California, but Europe as well. But yeah, just people doing park tours and updates and reviews of rides and things like that. And, one thing I do almost daily is watch roller coaster, like, they strap a camera on to the front or the back and, it's just point of view, like as if you're on the ride, going through the ride. And yeah, I watch those so much. It almost feels like I could be, like I really feel the sensations of the ride or something. And yeah, it's interesting, like the parks itself being there is total sensory overload, but it's like this intense interest. It just drives me through it. I just love the place so much. And I'm not even really sure why, but yeah, it just feels like real, like I said, like it really does feel magical to me. And yeah, I've just watched so many reviews of different roller coasters and I have a lot of kind of favorites, like I feel like favorite rides, but I've never even ridden on them. Like a recent one is Iron Gwazi. It's a newer one at Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay. And that just looks, it just looks so intense, but I love it. I don't know how the actual experience would be really, but I've ridden a few pretty intense roller coasters and I really, really like them. So just interesting. It makes me think about like the sensory aspect, right? Like if you like that sensation of the intensity of those kind of things. And another intense interest is kind of cars and racing, which people always think it's funny because I've never actually owned a car. I've owned a scooter, but and I used to drive more. I don't drive anymore. It would be a separate video, reasons why, but yeah, it's kind of like the roller coasters one. It's like I've only been on a few roller coasters, but I've watched hundreds of roller coaster videos. And I know about so many different cars. I've just watched had car magazines. I watched Top Gear, which is a really popular BBC show, a long time BBC show about cars. And yeah, I've always been interested in design and like I've a high trait of systematizing. So probably like as a lot of autistic people do, just wanting to know how things work. So it's really fascinating to me, just how cars function. And yeah, they're just so beautiful. So it's like good visual stimulation. I love the kind of external design of them. And yeah, I played lots of racing sim games. Like that's just a real flow state thing for me too, right? Just that repetition and racing and like getting in the zone and everything else drops away. And, learning how to perfect the feel of different cars and how they handle and everything. I love all that stuff, but like simulation, not in real life apparently. And yeah, just all the parameters you can tweak. Gran Turismo, the PlayStation series, played that so many hundreds of hours across multiple systems, collecting so many cars. And, because of this, I have some very specific favorite cars that, when I bring it up, people are like, you've never even owned a car. Why would you even know about that? But so for instance, I love the Renault Clio V6. So, in North America, people might not know the Clio that much, but it's a hatchback, but they made a hot hatchback version. So just a speedier version. But I just love how weird it is. Like they basically took out the back seats, put in a much bigger V6 engine. So no engine in the front, an engine in the middle. So you'd look over in the back seats and it would just be the engine under glass. So I just loved how strange that was. And yeah, I always watch rally racing. That to me is beautiful. Just like the intensity of the engine and yeah, it's just so, like rally racing, they're racing on dirt and just high speed and going around, sliding around corners with the dust flying. And just watching that footage is just so beautiful to me. Like, it's so extreme and it's almost like vicious and violent. The engine noise and the tires like throwing the gravel and everything. But just the flow through the turns is so beautiful. So it's this like really vicious and beautiful thing at the same time. And there's a short film that's one of my favorite short films ever called Climb Dance. So even that title, that kind of shows the intensity and the beauty. And that's based on a rally, but a very specific one that I'm also very interested in. It's a rally up a road, up a mountain, Pikes Peak in the US. And I'll link to that as well. So just a beautiful video of just the run of this rally race up the mountain. And so that's just a few special interests. I want to make some videos probably about individual ones, because of course could go to so much more in depth, but I just thought those were a few that really, really stuck out to me. And as I was saying, if you look in the description, I'll put some links to various videos, just some fun things that relate to some of my intense interests and some of the things I was talking about. And I just wanted to share that feeling of how intense and like how absorbed I can get into these things. And it's really a nice feeling. Like, it's just beautiful to like absorb that information and just get lost in all the detail. And I'd love to hear about some of your special interests. Anybody that's watching could put in, just put what some of your special interests are in the comments. I love hearing about what other people's are as well. It's always interesting. And thanks to whoever asked me this question. That's a great topic. And if you want to ask me a question, I'll answer it in a future video. If it's just something that I'm interested in answering and I know lots about. And there'll also be a link in the description to an anonymous form that has the question. And the form has a space where you can write a question for me. And thanks so much for watching.